Welcome back. Today's video is going to be part 1 of the Floral Lounge Set tutorial. So go ahead and grab your crochet hooks because we're going to be making the floral top part of the set. So before we get started on today's video, we're going to have to do some measurements to get the top as accurate as possible. So for the measurements you're going to need to measure from the top of your chest, right where your bust starts, to right underneath your bust. And this is going to be your bust measurement for your length. Then you're going to need to measure from one shoulder all the way around the front to the other shoulder for your shoulder to shoulder measurement, and this is going to be the width all the way around your bust. And then you're going to need to measure from the top of your bust to back around your arm, like your underarm. That is going to be your strap measurement, and you're going to need these 3 measurements to start the base of your top. So once you have those measurements, then we can jump into the video. I'm going to put my measurements up on the screen for each measurement, and that way you can use it as a reference. To get started for today's video, the materials that you will need are going to be a 4mm crochet hook. You're going to need 1 skein of your secondary color. For my secondary color, I am using linen number 2 and the brand Yarn Bee Bambootiful linen yarn, and this is a weight 5 yarn. And then you will need 2 skeins of your primary color, and for this one I am using rose number 4, also in the same brand. And this should fluctuate depending on the size that you do for this tutorial, but in today's video I'm going to be doing a medium large size, so this is roughly how much yarn you will need if you're doing this similar size as me. You need a pair of scissors, just something so you can cut off your loose ends, and a darning needle as well to sew in any ends. To start this tutorial, we're going to start with the base of the top. We're going to start with the slip knot. Alright. Can I get their dog to stop fucking barking for 5 minutes? So that previous measurements that I was telling you about, this is where we're going to start the bust and the bust and the top, the strap of the top. So for my measurements, my strap needs to be 10 inches, and for me that's 43 stitches. And then for the bust, I need it to be 6 inches, and for me that's 26 stitches. That means I need to do a total of 69 stitches to start. So we're going to do a chain of 69, and you're going to want to take your measurements and do a similar amount of stitches. So what I would do is I would combine your bust measurement and your strap measurement. Mine was 10 and 6, and I would do 16 inches for mine. Now I already know how many chains it's going to be, but for you, you might have to kind of go with the measurement at first just to figure it out. So I would chain and then hold it up to a measuring tape and just make sure that it's the correct amount with both of those measurements combined. So I'm off by chaining 69, and I will check back in with you guys after I have completed my chain. Alright, I have done my chain of 69, and I'm going to add 2 extra chains for the turning chain. So now we're going to move on to the first row, which is going to be, we're going to skip the last 2 chains we just did, our turning chain, and we're going to go into the third one with a half double crochet. And the base of this top is going to be made with only half double crochet, so we're going to use the same stitch throughout this entire portion, and you're just going to do half double crochets in every chain all the way down the row until you get to the end of the row. And I will check in again with you guys after you finish that. This is going to be our strap and the start of our bust, and row 2 is going to be a little bit differently. So okay, now I am down to the last 2 chains. I want to make sure you guys see that. So we're going to make sure we go into both of those chains. You don't want to forget that very last chain, especially because you might not see it at first, or you might skip over it, but you're definitely going to want to make sure you go into it so you get a nice clean edge. And now that we've finished row 1, we're going to move straight on into row 2. So for my measurements, my bust needs to be 26 stitches and my strap needs to be 43 stitches. Which means that I need to do a total of 26 stitches for this next row and every row after that until we get to connecting this strap again. So how I broke this up was, when you made your measurements for your shoulder blade to shoulder blade, mine was 30. So you're going to want to divide that by, you're going to want to put it into 3 portions basically. So how I did mine was I took the 30, I have to do 12 inches before the connection of the first strap, and then I have to do that same thing for the other side of the strap, but in between that, for the front part of my bust, I need to do 6 inches before getting to the second strap. So this means that I need to do 12 inches until I get to reconnecting this strap back around, so it'll go like that. This way the straps on your shoulder connect directly to the back, so you only have to tie the back around to your waist. So this means for this row I'm going to be doing my bust length, my bust height, length, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to do 26 stitches this row and not worry about the rest of these stitches. For you, you're going to want to take your bust measurement and whatever stitches you needed for your chain of your bust, and you're going to want to replicate that onto the second row. So you're going to want to do whatever stitches that is for you. Mine is going to be 26, so I'm going to do 26 stitches, and to start I'm going to do 2 turning chains. Every row we have for this top, we're going to do 2 turning chains after each row. So I did my 2 turning chains, and then I'm going to do the half double crochets down. I'm going to do 26 half double crochets. Now, like I said, this is going to look different for you if your measurements are different, so make sure you're following your measurements, and you're definitely going to want to make sure you're keeping track of your measurements or stitch count, however you need to do that, so you don't lose track as we're working on the base of this top. You also are going to want to remember to do the same thing with keeping track of your stitches and measurements for the shorts as well. It's going to help you greatly in the end, so you don't mess up along the way or have to try and remember how many stitches you did for each measurement, especially if you do decide you want to replicate this top after making it the first time. It makes it much easier if you keep track of those numbers. So I will see you guys after I have completed my bust length of 26 stitches, and then we will continue on into the next rows. Okay, so I have completed the 26 stitches I need for my bust, and I'm going to show you guys the measurements for everything with a measuring tape, which I highly suggest you guys do this along the way. So here's mine. If I stretch it out, it's gonna be roughly exactly 6 inches. Okay, so that's what you want to look for whenever you're doing your stitches with your measurement. You're going to want to make sure that it measures as perfectly as possible to the measurements you took. And then if I come here and stretch out this strap, so mine is actually going to be 9.5 inches, which is just perfect because I've made this top before and this is exactly how much I need. So I guess my measurement would technically be 9.5 and not 10 inches, but this is how long my strap is. And as you can see, I have it stretched out as much as possible. And this yarn is quite stretchy, so when you're doing the measurements with your measuring tape against the work you're making, just try and stretch it as much as possible without stretching too much, just to make sure you're getting the right measurement all together. So just wanted to show you guys that as we're working. Now that I have finished the second row, we're gonna chain 2 for our turning chain, and then we're just gonna work all the way down with this half double crochet back and forth with just this 26 stitches. And we're gonna continue this until we make it to the portion of the top where we want our strap to connect. So I'll try and insert a clip, but you want to make sure that this is going to be at the back. So this is the back of your top right now. This is going to start at your first shoulder blade. And so this strap needs to come all the way over around your armpit to where you would normally have your strap connect over your shoulder. So for me, that's 12 inches. So I'm gonna do 12 inches of this, and that is also gonna be 30 rows for me. So I'm gonna do 30 rows of this and keep working back and forth, and I will check back in with you guys to show the progress and how it should look once you're done with this portion. So we're gonna start with our half double crochet and work all the way down and just keep working back and forth with this similar pattern. Okay, so I just finished row 29 out of the 30 rows that I needed to complete for my measurements. This is gonna be 12 inches, my correct measurements. I'm gonna show you guys what it should look like before you connect the strap, so you know exactly how long you want to make it so it fits you just right. So that's what I'm going to show you guys before we continue, and then I will show you guys how to attach the straps and continue. Okay, so here I have my top, and I'm just going to take it around to my back and kind of hold it there in place with my armpit for a second, just so I can get this strap over. So I'm gonna have my strap over like so, and go, and see how that is. You want it to go right to where your armpit begins in the front, basically, and when we connect it, it's gonna look something like this, without it all tangled up, of course. And then the part that we'll work on next is the middle of the bust to the next strap. So this is what I have so far. Just wanted to show you guys kind of how much you need to make it. So as you can see, it just fits right over my arm perfectly, and when we do the tie, it'll stretch further into the back. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, but this is about where you're gonna connect it, and my next row will be me connecting it. Okay, so now that I have completed my 29th row, right before my 30th row, which will be the last row to connect, when you're doing this, the row for to connect needs to end where the strap ended. So as you can see, my 29th row ended at the bottom and my strap is at the top. So when I do this 30th row, it's going to stop here, and this is where we're going to connect these straps. So when you're doing yours, you want it to be similar to that. You want it to make sure it ends on one of these rows at the top instead of at the bottom. So you want it to basically end on an even row and not an odd row. Your odd rows are going to end at the bottom and your even rows are going to end at the top. So we're going to go ahead and connect. I have done my chain 2, so I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to half double crochet all the way down. And I'll meet you guys back after I ended off this last row to show you what we do next to connect the straps. Okay, so now I'm on my very last stitch right here. I'm gonna half double crochet into that stitch. And then instead of doing our normal turning chain of 2, we're going to, if you look closely at the edge of this, you have this V right here and then this top V right here. We're gonna go into that bottom V closest to us, and you want to make sure your strap does not get tangled while you're doing this. It is very important. So we're gonna go in that bottom V and we're going to slip stitch right into that, just like so. And then that other V we had, the second one, we're gonna go right into that one next. Okay, we're gonna go right into that V next and slip stitch. That is gonna be our turning chain for this next row. Then we're going to flip our work around and just continue working half double crochets all the way down, like so. And we're gonna continue working these half double crochets for the middle portion of our chest. I will show you guys what this looks like on me real quick so you guys can see how much of the work we still need to do for the middle portion before we start the next strap. But for me, I need to do 18 rows, which is going to be about 6 inches in total. You just want it to fit nice and snug over the front part of your chest all the way to the next where your armpit starts again. So I'll show you guys that real quick. Okay, so after I finished the 31st row, to connect it, this is what it should be looking like. Just gonna hold it over my shoulder, nice and snug, and as you can see, it just barely covers my chest. So at the moment, we're gonna be working these next rows all the way over into this side. For me, I need to do 18 rows, which is gonna be 6 inches. You just do as many rows as you need for it to comfortably fit all the way across to the next side. Once you get done with those rows and you're ready to start on the strap, we will check right back in. 47, and now I'm about to work on row 48, which is another even row, which is where we're gonna start our second strap. For every strap you do on this top, you're always gonna wanna end on an even row no matter what, except for the very beginning where we did the chains. So now that we're about to start on the strap, I'm going to explain to you how we're going to do this. This one is going to be very similar to the very beginning. You're going to continue all the way through this row to the end. And then you're going to want to chain the amount of chains for your strap that you had measured out initially in the beginning. So for me, that's going to be 43 chains. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I got my chain 2 churning chain. I'm gonna do half double crochets all the way down till the end of this row. Okay, so I'm down to my last chain, my last stitch, and do the half double crochet in that, and then I'm just gonna do a chain of 43. You're also gonna want to make sure you do your 2 churning chains as well, so I'm gonna do 43 plus 2, which is gonna end up being 45. And then you're just gonna half double crochet all the way back down like you did previously, and we will check back in then. Okay, so I finished my chaining, and now we're going to do the half double crochet down. Like I said, we're gonna skip those 2 stitches we just did and go into the 3rd like before, and just repeat this all the way down into every single stitch of the chain and every stitch of the row before. Okay, so I finished the row with the 2nd strap, and now we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and begin the next row. So for this, we're going to half double crochet all the way down like we did for the 2nd row at the very beginning, but we're only going to half double crochet through the bust portion. So I'm going to do my 26 stitches of half double crocheting all the way down, and then I'm just going to work back and forth for the rest of the way. And from here on out, you're going to repeat what you did from here to here for the rest. So I'm going to basically be repeating rows 1 through 30 for the same side over here. So you're going to be repeating your beginning rows to the row you connected your first strap on, all the way on this side as well. I hope that makes sense. It's basically just repetition, you're copying the first side to the second side so they match up perfectly. So for me, I'm going to be doing another 30 rows, and then on my 30th row I'm going to connect it just like I did before with the 2 slip stitches, 1 in each of these chains, and then we will be done with this portion of the top. So I will check back in with you guys right before I connect this off and finish off, and then we will continue on with the rest of the set. Row 76, and I needed to do 78 rows, but I had to stop 2 rows before for this one. So since it's a little different than the beginning where we started our top with the half double crochet rows for the strap, we need to find a way to incorporate the strap into both of the last rows. So in order to do this, after you finish the even row before your last odd row, so for mine it's 76 because I need to get to 78. For my next even or odd row, I'm going to, instead of chaining 2, I'm going to do what we did previously, and I'm going to go into that first one and slip stitch, but I'm also going to go into the second one and slip stitch as well. Okay, and then you're just going to turn your work in half double crochet all the way down, and then I will meet you guys at the end of row 78. So I'm going to do 77 and then 78, and I'll show you guys how to attach that last row to the stitch, to the strap. Okay, so I'm on my very last stitch, and I want to show you this because it doesn't look like a stitch, but it definitely is, and I don't want you to forget this. So this little hole right here before the strap is your last stitch, and you're going to want to make sure you go into that so it connects. And then lastly, so this row will connect with the strap, you're going to go into that same second hole that you went into previously with another slip stitch, just like so, and then you're going to slip stitch and cut. So once you have completed this portion of the top, you're basically a good portion of the way done. I'd say at least 1/3 of the way done. So now we're going to move on to making the ties for the sides of the top so it can tie into the back. And then we'll get straight on into the floral patterns. Okay, so this is what your top should look like with your straps folded. This is the back of the top, so it's going to be open like so. And this is where it's going to tie in the back. So to start, for me, I did 180 chains for each tie. How we're going to do this is I'm going to start my first chain of 180, so I'm going to make a slip knot, and I am going to chain 181, okay, and then after I've chained 181, I'm gonna check back in with you guys and show you how to attach this strap to the bottom and show you what to do next. Okay, so I finished my chain of 181 and now I'm going to attach it to the bottom of the body and then chain another 181. So I'm going to show you how to attach it. You're going to go into this very first stitch with that slip knot from the very beginning. You're going to go directly into that stitch. And then you're going to pull up a loop and single crochet right there. And then for every single stitch after that, you're gonna go into these big holes instead of the little stitch, the half double crochet stitch. So we're actually gonna skip that first hole and go into the next. And then repeat, go straight into this next hole right here. And then repeat again into this next hole right here. Repeating all the way down into every single hole until you get to the end, and you should have the same amount of single crochet stitches as you did rows for your top. It should be the same number, and then when you get to that end, you're going to just chain the same number of chains you did on this end to that end, and I'll show you when I get there as well, just to make sure that you understand. You're just going to continue going into every single one of these holes. Basically, it's like the top loop of the stitch that you go into after every row to start the new row. Okay, so now I'm to the very last stitch, and I want to show you so you don't miss it. That very last top loop of the last row, you want to make sure you're going into that right there. So I'm going to go in there with a single crochet, and then immediately after that I'm just going to start my chain of 181. And after we complete this, I will show you guys how to start the floral pattern and get that going. And now you are finished with the base of your floral top. At this point, you can go ahead and try the top on, make sure it fits perfectly, the straps, the ties, the bust, everything, so that way you can move on to the floral part of the pattern without any issues. From there, it'll just be following the same pattern I'm following and making it as long as you would like. Okay, so we're about to start the floral part of the top for the set, and I have my secondary color in the linen color, as I spoke of before. I am going to start off on the last row we finished of the top, the single crochet row, and I'm going to insert my hook in there, and I'm also gonna hold on to the yarn, the tail, as I work, so I can weave it into my yarn as I work. And I'm just going to wrap my yarn around and pull up a loop, and then I'm gonna pull up another loop, kind of tighten it off, and go right back into that stitch again with a single crochet. And then repeat again into that same exact stitch with another single crochet. So that's going to be an increase, and then in the next stitch we're just going to do one single crochet, and then in that third stitch we're going to do two single crochet, and then another single crochet in the next stitch, and we're just going to keep repeating the two increase in one stitch and then the single crochet in the next stitch, back and forth. Keep doing that 2 single crochet in 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, and you're just gonna repeat, and then I will check back in with you at the end and we'll get started on the floral pattern. Okay, so I have finished off with the single crochet row with the increase and no increase, and I finished off on a single crochet stitch instead of an increase stitch, and we started on an increase stitch. So that's how it should start. It should start an increase and end on just a single crochet whenever you're doing this single crochet row at the end. Now you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And then you are going to put a single crochet into the first 5 stitches of this row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to chain 4. And you're going to yarn over, skip 3 stitches, and go into the 4th stitch with a double crochet. And then in the next 2 stitches you're going to do 2 more double crochets. So 1 double crochet and 2. So you should have 5 single crochets, a chain 4, and then 3 double crochets. Now you're going to chain 4 again, and then skip 3 stitches and single crochet into the 4th, and repeat for the next 4 stitches after that. So you should have another 5 single crochets. And then again, chain 4 and double crochet into the 4th stitch after that, and 2 more double crochets after that. And you're just gonna keep doing this pattern all the way down until you reach the end of the row, and I will show you what to do at the end of the row to make sure you finish off correctly. Okay, so I'm down to my last 11 stitches, but I don't have enough to continue the previous pattern and end off with an even amount. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna skip 4 stitches instead of 3. I'm gonna do 1 single crochet there, and then I'm gonna do a decrease in the next 2 stitches, which will make 3, and then in the last 2 I'm just going to do a normal single crochet. So we have a total of 5, and we stick to our original pattern of the 5 single crochet, 4 chain, 3 double crochet, 4 chain, and repeat. And now that is the end of the first row. Okay, so we're done with the row, and now I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. So this is where the pattern gets a little bit different. So for row 2, it's going to be 3 single crochets in the next 3 stitches. 1, 3, and then chain 4, 3, 4. Now this is where it gets a little different. So you have to look for those 4 chains you did before in the previous row, and you're going to skip the first 2 chains and go into the 3rd one with a double crochet. And I try and get both of those V's when I do this, just so it looks a little bit cleaner, but it's all up to you. But I'm going to do that one, and then in that 4th chain right before the first double crochet, we're going to do 2 double crochets in that chain, just like so. 1 and 2. Okay, now then you're gonna skip these 3 double crochets and go straight into that first chain on this side with 2 double crochets, just like you just did. One, and it is going to be a little hard to get into those stitches at first, so just try your best to make sure you get into the right one. So there's 2, and now into that next chain right next to that one we just went into, we're going to do 1 double crochet. And this is kind of going to be a pattern you're going to have to remember. So when it comes to the chain 3, which is not the flower part, you're going to make sure you want your double crochets inwards facing that, and you're going to want to make sure the flower portion, which is going to be right here, we're starting to develop the petals, has the 1 double crochet next to it. So if you can kind of see, in this next part with the 1 double crochet is going to be a flower as well, with the pattern starting to develop. So now we are going to chain 4, and we're going to skip that first single crochet and go into the second one, and we're just going to go into the next 2 again, so we only have 3 single crochets. So 2, 3, skipping the first and last single crochet of the 5 from before, and then we're going to chain 4 again, and repeat. Go into that 3rd chain with 1 double crochet, and then that 4th chain with 2 double crochet. And this is pretty much going to be your pattern. It's just repeating this pattern so far for this row. Yeah. Okay, so I finished up the 2nd row with the 4 single crochets, and now I'm going to chain 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, and turn my work completely. And now we are going to completely skip those first 4 stitches, and we're going to go into the 3rd chain from the previous row with a double crochet, and then into that 4th stitch with 2 double crochets. And then you're going to chain 3, and you're going to do a treble crochet in between these stitches right here in the middle. Chain 3 again. Repeat on the other side, going into that first chain with 2 double crochets. And 2, and then going into the 2nd chain with 1 double crochet. Then you're going to chain 3 again and do another treble crochet into that 2nd stitch from the previous row right here in the middle of the 3, right here. And this is going to start the formation of our flower pattern. And do this entire pattern all the way to the end of the row, and I will see you there to work on the next row. Okay, so I just finished off the 3rd row with a treble crochet to finish off this corner flower right here. And I'm gonna explain the pattern before we continue because it's pretty much repetition at this point. So I'm gonna kind of break it down so it's easier to understand. So if you can see here, you have half of the flower right here and half flower right here, so on and so forth. So each flower is gonna have a treble crochet row at the bottom, a 3 single crochet row, 5 single crochet, 3 treble crochet. That's the order a flower is going to go in. So it's going to have 5 rows in total, but as you can see, this one only has 3, so this is just half of the flower. But normally you'd have another 3 single crochet and a treble crochet underneath, and that would be a complete flower. As you can see, there's this checkered pattern building up next to each flower, and it's going to go in a diamond horizontal pattern. So you can see this one's going that way, but this one's going this way, and they're going to intercross and keep going as long as you keep the pattern going, pretty much. So if you also notice, this is our flower, but next to the flower above, we're starting this other weird situation. But this is going to be the start of our next flower. The flowers are going to also go in a horizontal pattern too, and kind of do a diamond pattern intersecting. So this is the start of the first row of a flower. Then, you know, you'll have your 3, your 5, your 3, your 1, but this is the first row of the flower pattern for the next flowers. So we're starting with half flowers, and then we're going to work our way up to whole flowers and continue this pattern of the diagonal, like intersecting of the flowers in the checkered pattern. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, and like the laying it out flat and kind of explaining it made more sense as we work forward. But we're going to go ahead and get started on row 4. So for row 4, I am going to chain 4 chains, 4, and I'm going to turn my work completely again. And this is where it gets a little tricky. So we are going to have to do a double crochet in this first chain right off to our side. You see, treble crochet the very first chain I'm going into, and we're going to do 1 double crochet, just like so. And then we're going to do another double crochet right into that same stitch. So this is the 2 double crochet one. And then in the next chain, we're going to do 1 double crochet. Repeating that similar pattern, the similar pattern from before. So after a while, it does kind of become repetition and you can kind of get the hang of it. But now we're going to go back to chaining 4 instead of chaining 3. This treble crochet row is the only row that you chain 3 on. The rest of them you're going to chain 4. So see our treble crochet stitch right here? We're going to go into that chain right before it with a single crochet. Like I said, we're going to have to start our 3 single crochet row for the flower right here. So next one, the treble crochet stitch, we're going to do another single crochet. And then the chain right after that treble crochet stitch, we're going to do another single crochet. And this will complete our 3 single crochet row for this flower right here. And as we move forward, it'll get bigger, and we've already created 1 petal for it right there. So now we're going to chain 4 and go on over to here where our previous flower is. And this is where we're going to continue that checkered pattern I was talking about. So we're going to go into that 3rd chain right here with a double crochet. And this is going to be our 1 double crochet. Then that 4th chain is going to be our 2 double crochet. We're going to repeat on the other side. First chain stitch is going to get 2 double crochets, and the second is going to get 1 double crochet. and then chain 4 again. Go into that first chain before the treble crochet with a single crochet, treble crochet, another single crochet, and the chain after that another single crochet. And as you can see, we're pretty much just repeating at this point. We'll see you guys at the end of this row. If you need to go back and just rewatch what I just showed you, you can, but I will see you at the end, and then we will continue on into the 5th row. This pattern should repeat until the 9th row, and after that you can pretty much just keep going with the pattern that I'm showing you so far. So once we get to the 9th row, we will be done, and you can just make it as long as you want it or as short as you want it. For me personally, I ended up doing a total of 18 rows of this floral pattern, and that was the perfect length for me. So just go with whatever suits you. Okay, so I'm about to finish up this last portion of the row. I have this cluster portion right here, and then I have those chains that we made from the previous row. So I'm gonna go into this first chain right here next to cluster with a double crochet, and then look for that second chain after it, and you're gonna go into that chain. With 2 double crochets. I can never get in there. With 2 double crochets. Like so. And it'll continue that pattern going off to the side, and that is how you will end off row 4. So now we will start row 5. Okay, so for row 5, you're going to chain 3. You're going to turn your work completely again, and then you are going to go into that very first stitch from the last row and do a double crochet. And then you're going to chain 4 and go into that first chain before your chain 3 or your single crochet of 3, and do a single crochet and then single crochet down into those 3 single crochet stitches. You'll have 4 into that chain right next to you. You're gonna do another single crochet. So that is our single crochet of 5 for the flower row, and as you can see, this flower is pretty big, and then from there it's just 3, 1, and continue. So now we're going to chain 4 again. So you're going to chain 4, and then you're going to put 3 single crochets in between the 2 clusters of double crochets, like so. And that is kind of where that checkered pattern intersects, and it's going to start branching off in both directions again. So then you're going to chain 4 and repeat, going into that first chain before the 3 single crochets with a single crochet, working a single crochet into each of the previous 3 single crochets, like so, and then a single crochet in that last chain right next to your 3 single crochets. Repeating again one last time just to show you, with 4 chains and a cluster of 3 double crochets in between the 2 clusters from the previous row. And you're just going to keep repeating this over and over until the end of this row. And once you get to the end of the row, I will show you how to finish off the row and start row 6. Okay, so I just finished up and I'm about to finish off the row. I did my chain of 4, and now we have this little hole where we did our chain from the previous row. I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 double crochets into that little gap to finish off our row, and then that is the end of row 5, and we are ready to start row 6. Okay, so to continue on to row 6, we're gonna chain 3, turn our work, okay, and then we are gonna go into this very first chain from the previous row with 2 double crochets. And then that next chain, we're gonna go in with 1 double crochet. Repeating that similar pattern. And this row is when you will start to see the checkered pattern branch off and turn into like a diamond shape. You're gonna chain 4. Skip that first single crochet from the previous row and go into the second one with the single crochet, and do that into the next 2 stitches as well, leaving that last one unbothered, chaining 4 again. And like I was saying, this is going to be the 3 single crochet row right before the next treble crochet row, and we're almost done with our flower, our first flower, full flower. Then you're gonna go into the 3rd chain with a double crochet, and then the next chain after that with 2 double crochets. On the other side of our cluster, you're gonna go into that first chain with 2 double crochets. And then the next chain is going to have 1 double crochet. And this is going to be the repetition of our pattern for this row. Chaining 4 again. And then doing the 3 single crochets, skipping that first single crochet, and then going into the next 2. So we have a total of 3 single crochets, skipping the first and the last from the previous row, chain 4 again, go into the 3rd chain next to you with 1 double crochet, and then go into that chain right next to it, the 4th one, with 2 double crochets. And continue doing this to the end of the row, and I will meet you back to finish off row 6 and start row 7. For row 7, you're going to chain 6 turn your work, and then you're going to go into this first chain next to your 4 double crochets from the previous row, and you are going to do 2 double crochets. And then in that next chain, you are going to do 1 double crochet. Then you're going to chain 3. And put a treble crochet into the middle of these chain 3s. That second stitch there. single crochets, not chains. Chain 3 again, and repeat with a double crochet in this third chain right here, and then 2 double crochets in the chain after. Chain 3 again, treble crochet in between our 2 clusters, and this is going to be the formation of our second flower and the end of our first flower. If you can see the end of the first flower, and we're starting up the first row of the second flower, and that is pretty much how it's going to work out. So chain 3, go into this first chain right here with 2 double crochets, and then the next one with 1 double crochet, chain 3 again, treble crochet into the middle of the 3 single crochets like we did just a minute ago, and keep repeating. I'm going to be repeating the same steps that I just showed you all the way to the end of the row. I will show you how to finish off row 7, and then I will show you how to do row 8, and then after that you will pretty much just be repeating this pattern that I showed you over and over again until you get the length you want. Okay, so I'm about to finish off row 7, and I did my chain 3, and now I'm going to do a treble crochet in this little gap right here from the previous row. And that is how you're going to finish off row 7, and I will show you how to do row 8. And then from there, it's pretty much just repetition. Just make sure you're keeping track of what is a flower and what is the checkered pattern whenever you continue forward. So I will show you how to do row 8, and then we'll basically be done. So you're going to chain 1, turn your work completely, and then in the stitch with the treble crochet, you're going to single crochet 1 stitch, and then in that chain next to you, you're going to single crochet another stitch, and this is going to make up our 3, but since there's not that other chain on the other side, it's just going to be 2 stitches, as you can see, for the flower. And this is going to be another corner flower on the side, so that's why I said, you know, keep track, because as you can see, it's starting to go in a diagonal pattern again, and we're starting up another flower. So now you're going to chain 4, you're going to go into that second chain from before, right before your treble crochets. So there's the third one, second one, first one. You're going to go into the second with a double crochet. And then you're going to go into the third chain stitch with 2 double crochets. Then you're going to put 2 double crochets in the chain after the treble crochet, as you can see. And then you're going to put 1 double crochet in the chain after that one.
Hello everyone, it's Lynn again. I've been documenting.
And then you're going to chain 4 again. And you're going to go into that first chain before your treble crochet again, and you're going to put a single crochet. Go into the treble crochet with another single crochet, and then go into the chain after the treble crochet with another single crochet. As I was saying, this is the start of our second and a half flower, however you want to put it. And so this is our single crochet 3 row of the start of the new flower, as you can see right here. So now we're going to continue with 4 chains, and then we're going to go into that second chain 4 with 1 double crochet. Okay. And then we're going to go into that third chain with 2 double crochets. And then you're going to go into that first chain after the treble crochet with 2 double crochets. And then you're going to go into the chain after that with a double crochet. And then you're going to chain 4 again. And you're pretty much just going to keep repeating this pattern till the end of the row. And every row after that is going to be repeating the similar patterns from before. Like I said earlier, I did a total of 18 rows of this flower pattern. It's up to you how long you want to make it. You can do more or less than 18 or however many you would like. I do suggest ending off on a single crochet 5 row, like the row we started on. So we started with 5 single crochets for the flowers. I want you to end on a single crochet 5 row. It makes it look a lot straighter when you end on that row compared to all the other rows that are kind of like wavy. So that is it for part 1 of the Floral Lounge Set tutorial, which was the floral top. For part 2, it'll be the shorts. So here are the 2 versions that I make that you'll see in part 2. This is the blue version, and then here is the pink version. And I'm wearing the blue version of the floral top. I did have to break it up into 2 parts so that way I could make sure it wasn't too long, and that way you guys were able to get all the information to properly make the pattern to fit yourself. So that is all for today's tutorial. Go ahead and leave a like and subscribe if you want more content like this, or if you enjoyed this video. And definitely go ahead and check out my Etsy shop. There is a 25% off deal going on for Mother's Day, and this set, as well as a couple other super cool items that I don't want to spoil yet, will also be on my Etsy shop for the sale, and you get free shipping on all orders. So definitely check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching.